Hi everyone, and welcome to our special New Year's cooking lesson. As you all know, New Year's is a big deal in Japanese culture, and special dishes have special significance. And I'm sure most of you, like me, grew up with your mom making you eat ozoni for good luck. So that's actually the first dish we're going to do. We're also going to be doing takuan, which is pickled daikon, and simmered kabocha squash. But first we're going to start off with the ozoni. Let's start with, we've got most of our ingredients prepped, but we have to blanch our spinach. So blanching is a very important technique. It sounds so simple, but doing it correctly is important. You always want to use pretty salted water. This is kosher salt. The reason for the salt is that retains your color of your vegetable, especially something like this that's green. And of course a little bit of seasoning. It helps with the seasoning. So you want to make sure you have a really rolling boil going. And just dump your spinach in. It's not as important in this case because spinach is so it's so thin. But if you're doing vegetables that are like carrots and potatoes or something, then you have to do you want to really do a lot of water, because what happens is if you throw in cold stuff, it cools down the water too quickly. But for spinach, no big deal. And then also a lot of times you can use ice water. This is called an ice bath. I'm not using ice because spinach, no big deal. Just with cold water, it's fine. But the key is with shocking is you want to stop the cooking process really quickly. So I can just add some cold water, cool this off a little more. And that's good. Spinach only takes like less than 30 seconds to cook. Okay, so that's good. So next, let's see, what else do we have? I'm going to show you what else. I've already cooked the what do you call mochi ahead of time. I did burnt it a little bit, but I trimmed it off. You don't have to broil it. My mom actually would just throw them in, and they're kind of they get soggy. But I like the more of the crunch there. Here's our kamaboko. Slice that up. We have our shiitake. Now, there's two ways you can do it. You can either do thin slices, just little slivers, but I like for New Year's, because it's a special day, to do a little bit, make it look prettier. So you can just cut little stars by just cutting a thin wedge in the top like that. And you have a pretty nice presentation, because as you know, presentation is important. So and also always cut off your stem, your woody stem to your shiitakes. These are dried. A lot of people don't know that actually the dried mushrooms have more flavor than the fresh ones. I'll use fresh for certain things like for stir fries and stuff, but the dried ones actually have a more concentrated flavor. So it's presentation-wise, we've got a lot of colors. We've got green, we've got the pink and white, we've got brown. It's just a nice, beautiful dish, presentation-wise. Okay, so one more thing we need to do are carrots and our daikon. So for this, you can do just slices, but I like to, especially for New Year's, make things a little bit prettier. So I've got these when I was in Japan. You can get them, simple ones, at the Japanese store, at the grocery store. But they're just basically little cookie cutters. So all you do is cut it, pop it right out like that, like a cookie cutter. And you got your pretty little shapes. One thing I just learned recently that I didn't know before was in terms of daikon, the upper end, not the bottom end. So if it's in the ground, the end that has the leaves coming out, that end is sweeter than the bottom end. So if you're doing a dish where you really want to focus on the sweetness of the daikon, use the upper end. So we've got our pretty little maple leaves. We're going to get our broth going for our ozoni. So I've got 4 cups of water. So it's 1 teaspoon of hondashi per cup of water, so that can be 4 teaspoons. So, okay, we got that going. We have our seasonings. Okay. Bring that up to a boil. One thing I wanted to talk about briefly is in terms of what I call umami boosters. I'm just going to share with you guys. I actually specialize in vegan cuisine, so I can't use hondashi, but just in general, even if you're not vegan, it's good to know about these. I use this kombu powder that comes with a cute little spoon. I found this at a Japanese store. This is harder to find, but you can find these at any store. You have different types of dashis. You know, they have ones with, you know, fish and shiitake and stuff, but this one is kombu. So that's these really will boost your flavor up. And another one, this is huge. I use this, you can see this is a huge bag and I'm almost done. This is huge for me. I mean, this is pure umami. This is basically like natural MSG. It's a mushroom seasoning. The only problem is that it has salt, which I don't like because I like to have no salt so you can regulate the salt yourself. But this is a huge, huge thing because you're gonna, especially if you're doing vegetarian, you're losing umami. You guys all know what umami is, right? We always want to increase our umami. It's nice to have one of these, like a little mesh net to skim off any impurities that come up. I'm going to put the chicken in now too. So we'll cook chicken and then we're going to cook the daikon and carrots. So this is what we call Kanto style, which is what I grew up on. It's a, as you know, as we've seen, this is a dashi based stock. So we're just going to simmer that for a few minutes to get the chicken cooked and the carrots and daikon softened. And we'll put our meals in there. Okay, so when I plate up this ozoni, I like to make it, well, you try to make it pretty, right? So I'm getting the broth here. And put a little bit of spinach. You can also put a little bit of green onion or, you know, slight scallions just for color, but we already have our spinach, but that is our finished dish. Okay, so the next dish we're doing today is takwan. When I was growing up, we called it koko. We always had it on the dinner table. This style is a little different. It's a fresh one. Actually, nowadays when I eat the fresh taco, I mean the ones, you know, the really ones from the store that are they're really strong to me. So I really like this preparation because it's lighter and not as overpowering. So, and you'll be surprised at how easy it is. So we have our daikon. This is equivalent of about one medium-sized one. So all we're doing here is cutting these into, I think we'll do halves. Yeah, I think we can do quarters too, but this is fine. Now the last lesson I taught a little bit about the cutting technique. I'm just going to reinforce that here. This kind of thing, you're never going to get your fingers close because the knife is pressing against my knuckles, and so, you know, this enables you. You can do it with your eyes closed because all you're doing is moving your hand, your knuckles, and I'm doing the rocking motion with my hand like this. This is, you know, if you see the side view, you're doing this motion over and over. Once again, and then this is the way I like to hold the knife. You can also do really thick slices, but that's going to take longer to cure. This, the recipe says 2 days to pickle this, but I've actually served it the next day and it was fine. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how to salt. I don't use a measurement, I just go by feel, so I'm sorry about that. But, you know, this is once again kosher salt. Pretty generous. Basically you want to get it well distributed. That was, I guess, 3 pretty big pinches. Pretty well distributed so that it can draw the moisture out. That's what we're doing with the salt. So then after this, you let it sit for a couple of hours at room temperature. This was done hours ago. So once you can see it's a lot more limp. You want to squeeze all the water out. The sauce for this is very simple and easy to remember. We've got 1/2 cup sugar, I should put water first. 1/2 cup water. One-half cup sugar. 1/2 cup rice vinegar. You could use white vinegar in a pinch. So all we're doing here is melting the sugar. Okay, 1 tablespoon of sake. So sugar is melted. Keeps going off. Okay, all we need to do now is let that cool for a bit, and then pour the marinade on top, the pickling on top, juice on top. And the other thing, for color, you can add yellow food coloring, but I like to be natural. Just a little bit of turmeric. Try 1/2 teaspoon. That'll give you a nice yellow color. Okay, so this is our pickling liquid has cooled, and you see the nice yellow color from the turmeric. All you're going to do now is leave this to pickle. Well, oftentimes I'll put it in a Ziploc bag just because it seems to get better liquid circulation. But after a couple days, this will be ready to go. Okay, so the last dish we're going to do is simmered kabocha squash. And it's a really good dish because it's really simple, and yet it's really complements other dishes. Like the sweetness of the squash is a really nice contrast to other dishes that you eat. So I always, you don't have to have a lot of it, but just a few bites really hits the spot. So we're gonna get our water going. 1 3/4 cup. We're gonna do our dashi. A little under 2 teaspoons of that. And then our seasonings, the soy sauce, shoyu and sugar and what else? Okay. So while that's heating up, we got our kabocha. This is about a half one, and you just want to cut this into the same size, chunks of the same size. That's the main thing, is don't make uneven size stuff, because then things won't cook evenly. It's got a thick skin, but you can eat the skin. I used to peel it all the time, but I think it looks nicer presentation wise and color, and it's good for you, the skin. The other thing that's important when you're doing this is that you have a pot big enough to do them in one layer. You don't want to have it where it's doubled up at all, because it won't cook right. So we're going to put these in, skin down. So what I've got here is something that you might not be able to find, but it's called a droplet or a otoshibuta. And this is a great tool because it allows you to press down on the whatever's in their pot, and keeps the liquids flowing underneath, and it doesn't fall apart. But most people, you won't have that. The traditional one's made out of wood, by the way. It's a wood with a little handle on it. I'm going to show you a hack here, a trick, since most of you probably don't have this. This is just a piece of parchment paper, okay? So I'm just going to fold it in half, right? Then keep on folding it. See how I'm going? So I folded it in half once, and then I'm going to fold it in quarters. But after that, this is my middle right here, right? So I'm just going to keep folding. If you can see, just folding and folding like this. So now you can go to the center, and you know how big it needs to be. Always go a little bit bigger. So all I did was cut off, go by the radius, and then you have your circle. And this will keep all the liquid in and the goodness in, and help it cook faster. So you want to simmer this for 20 to 30 minutes until it's till the kabocha's soft. And then you want to leave it for about half hour, let it sit at room temperature to absorb the flavors, and then you're good to go.